Test, 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 test. Let's see. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, that is working. Thank you, Hedge. Let's see here. All right. Sounds good. Let's see. All right. See if he's able to come on. Let me call him. This I don't want to keep doing. Uh, let me see. Where is he?
Yo,
I sent you the link.
you did? I'm sitting here looking to see. Let me check. Okay, you said it. I'll be on Prado.
Do you see it?
Hold on, let me check. Oh, it just popped up. Okay. Set a reminder. Okay, yeah, I just got it. Oh, I'll be on.
Well, come on now, because I'm.
Will do.
Hi, everybody. Just waiting for the judge, honey. And this was I'm saying. Like he finally got his account back, so we're trying to see if he could actually go live on Space, on X Space, and his account was suspended since October of last year. So he just got it back. He noticed it last week. And it's like, okay, so let's just do a space and see what happens. So we just waiting for him to come on. And I'm kind of out of the doing space mode, but again, this is the judge space, not my space. So hopefully he won't have any issues coming on tonight. Hi, Rusty. So yeah, so this is a tester. This space is really a tester tonight to see if he could get on space, to make sure he's not having any problems when he come on. Um, you know, and then we just see what happens. Uh, let's see. Let's see if I could add the Rumble account here. All right. See what comes up. Um, let's see. Hi, Big Daddy. How are you?
Good, I'm all good.
Honey, I'm a little bit rusty doing these spaces. Uh, okay. Yeah. It's no particular topic. That's why I said just open mic. There's no particular topic. It's just whatever. And for him to just come up and say hi to everyone. So if you want to say anything, Big Daddy, you can. If anybody else want to request to come up, you can.
Dana, when the judge get on, I want to ask this question. Since they found all that fraud in Georgia, are they going to vacate those 2 Senate seats since it was done under fraud?
Ooh, that is a great question. I didn't think of that. I don't think I don't know if he even touched on that, but yeah, make sure you ask him that question when he come up. That's a great question. Because I think a lot of things should be put in question. You know what I'm saying? Because of the fraud. And I know they unsealed the documents today, so I didn't have time to look up the unsealed documents. So yeah, make when the judge come out, make sure you ask him that question, Big Daddy. That could be the first question. Hi, Rusty.
Hey, lady, what was the question? You know how it misses, a few seconds or something when you're coming up? I missed his whole question.
What was your question again, Big Daddy?
The FBI has conducted their investigation down in Georgia, and they found it just riddled with fraud. And so my question is, since those 2 Senate seats was won with the fraud, will they vacate the 2 seats and do a special election because it's due to fraud?
Right. And because wasn't one of Herschel Walker, he lost, but it was like a small margin, right?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
those 2 Senate seats, yeah, I think both of those are fraudulent. But Big Daddy, I don't think they finished their. I don't think they finished it yet. There's a lot of leaks that's going on though. I mean, there's the problem is too is they're missing like 50 boxes. I mean, which is like which I calculated it up from what they were saying how many boxes they did get to how many ballots were actually supposedly cast in Fulton County for 2020, and it would be something like 36,000 ballots that are missing. And Trump lost Georgia by like 11,700, I think it was. So I mean, it's definitely getting crazy. This is crazy in Georgia. But Dana, I'm really curious because I've heard Judge several times talk about I guess him being in Hollywood a little bit and then also the judicial system, he knows about a lot of, uh, I don't know. It seems like he might know, I don't know. I've heard him talk about the secret societies and just things like that. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really curious to get his take on this whole Epstein fiasco. I'm super glad to have him back.
Yeah, I mean, you can ask about it. We kind of briefly spoke on it. Not briefly, we spoke on it like on YouTube. We did a couple of videos on it. It's just I think with my channel that Epstein topic didn't really hit as much well in the algorithm. He didn't really take too much interest in it because he's like he was basically echoing the same thing Trump was echoing. It's just a distraction. And I think, but when we did the last time we did talk about it, I know he was saying that it is a distraction because there's no
Oh, I see him.
indictments. Oh, there he goes. Yeah, there is Judge. I'm sending you co-hosts. I'm just going to send you straight to co-hosts. So look out for the co-host requests. So yeah, definitely Rusty ask him when he comes up. But we'll start with Big Daddy's question first, and then you could ask him about the Epstein. I sent you a co-host request, Judge. Did you get the co-host request? There you go.
Hello there.
Hey.
Hi again.
How are you?
I guess I can operate still in the rarefied air of X.
Yeah.
Been since October. That's a while.
Right. So welcome back. Now, Big Daddy and Rusty, they're up here. And I said it's open mic. We don't really have a specific topic because this is, your first day back since October. So we want to make sure everything is working properly. So go ahead, Rusty, and go ahead, not Rusty, go ahead, Big Daddy, with your question because that was a good question, and Rusty has a good question too. So go ahead, Big Daddy, and start it off.
Judge Brown, um, since they done FBI is still ongoing this investigation, but they had mentioned that they have found a lot of fraud in Georgia. And so with the fraud they found in Georgia, are they gonna vacate those 2 Senate seats and do a special election? Because it's due to fraud. That was my
They
question.
can't. In America, once somebody's taken the oath, even if it's fraudulent as to how they got there, they're there. That's just evidence that you use to sway how you vote the next time. Now, if the person is removed, that means they are impeached. Or there's another remedy before they take the seat. The House or the legislative body can refuse to seat them or eject them. That has happened quite a few times in the U.S. House of Representatives, where somebody who's been seated, elected, is refused a seat, or after being seated, is ejected from the House. So it's possible, but generally it would require an impeachment proceeding. And then it would have to be personal. So it's like if the ceremony has been undergone, that's it. Generally, but not always.
That was it, Big
It's
Daddy?
sort of it's kind of a sanction to the electorate. Be careful how you cast your vote or what you do when you claim you're going to vote the couch and stay home. There are consequences, if that makes sense.
Oh, he dropped down a listener. Go ahead, Rusty.
Well, that was interesting. I'm in Georgia, and I've wondered, like, if that comes out as fraudulent, what would happen? So that's very. I didn't, because I thought, my God, that's going to be a mess if we find out all these people are really not elected. You know what I'm saying? That they were selected. That's going to be a mess. Because I think it's in all states. I really do believe that. After some of the stuff that I've seen in Georgia, I just think it's going to be a mess. But my question to you
How about
was.
indictments? And some people get the jail time that they were trying to impose on somebody who was exposing their wrongdoing. That would be justice.
Oh, that would be even better. So my question to you is, and Dana said that she's touched with you on this before during podcasts. I guess where we're at with these Epstein files, like I don't dig into that stuff very much. I'm not paying much attention, but I am starting to read some of the emails that they came out with some of this last dump. And I'm just kind of curious. I mean, it's such a big tug of war, Donald Trump this or, Steve Bannon that and Epstein. I mean, it just is. And I guess my larger question to you is I'm having trouble understanding is so the DOJ said there's no other cases or there's nothing hanging out there, but some of this stuff we're seeing is pretty damning. Like who was it that Les Wexner was listed as co-conspirator, but I guess there's nothing. They're not going to do anything to him. It sounds like because they said the case is already closed and there were no other pending. So I mean, could
Okay.
there something be come out of this or no?
Yes, it could. But let me put it to you this way. Remember the Hunter Biden laptop, which actually turns out, because I've read the transcripts for them, three laptops, not one. Remember the seized files they got from Trump down in Malargo? I suspect from what I did read in the uh, Biden files that when you put them together with what I suspect's on the Malargo material, and you correlate it with the voluminous page count that you have on the Epstein files, you actually could get something. But to go through several 100,000 pages of documents or videos or maybe a million or so takes a lot of manpower hours. And these people aren't just assigned to review their Epstein trial, they also have other ongoing responsibilities. That takes time. This is not a series or a TV special that, everything is encompassed within 1 hour. You see the outline of the crime as it occurs, so you know what went on, and then you see this quick development over the next 28 minutes of the hour when you find out how the prosecution goes. That's not how it works. People have to sit up in the middle of the night and have a a light bulb go on and go, oh, wow, maybe that's what's going on. And then you have to talk to people. And when you talk to people, it's whether or not they'll cooperate. Do you have any probable cause to charge them with something or not? Are you just fishing at that point in time? And what do you have to pressure them into coming clean with what they know? Is it a situation where somebody can remotely or likely evoke the Fifth Amendment? Is it a situation where you need to go back check on what you have come up with and then go back and re-interview people and say, wait a minute, we came up with this, it doesn't match. What do you have to say about that? And if the person doesn't take the Fifth Amendment, then you have to pursue these leads. It's complicated. When you see somebody rush to indictment or to prosecute, usually it's for political purposes, and the case they come up with is garbage and won't stick. And you get somebody who is exonerated on an appeal after being close to bankrupted and mightily inconvenienced and kept in a silent mood because they've been stifled. Uh, Somebody's been discredited without good cause, and it's a bad thing. So it would take a while to investigate this. I've done many criminal investigations, either as prosecutor, defense lawyer, or seen the result as a criminal court judge over the years. And these things just don't happen overnight, even though the public demands them to do so. They have an old saying that says, the wheels of justice grind slowly. And
But
that is
Judge,
a fact.
my question is, what do you? How does that DOJ letter that was put out a few months ago saying we're closing the case, there's nothing to see here? How does that factor into this? That's what's
No,
confusing
no,
me.
it doesn't factor at all. Matter of fact, it can be a deliberate misstatement to throw certain people off their guard so they get taken unawares if they get approached. It's a good way to keep people from vigorously going out trying to destroy or suppress evidence or suborn witnesses. So it's a good prosecutorial technique.
So you don't think that? I mean, so that's not again. I mean, I have no idea. I'm just asking, but that's not against the law for them to say we're closing the case.
No,
The
the
case is
Supreme
closed.
Court's ruled quite some time ago that law enforcement can intend.
Um, I can't hear him. Do you hear him, Rusty?
No, he cut out, and
Oh,
I was like,
okay.
"Dadgummit,
Somebody
he's getting to
probably
the good
tried to
part."
call him.
I didn't know that. Nobody's ever explained that. That's never made sense to me. And everybody keeps saying nothing's going to happen. They've already closed the file.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know, what's going to really happen, but it's too much. It's a million files. Okay, he dropped down. He probably got to come back up. I think somebody probably called him, and which knocks him right off. Because it's what, a million pages. Okay, here he goes. I'm sending you the co-host link, Judge. I just sent you the co-host link. So it's like to go through a million pages, and then you got to go shuffle through all those pages, see if you could get evidence and stuff like that. Okay, then.
Can you hear
Well,
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
mhm.
Nobody called me. It just cut off. It's been doing that for a while. Not, I haven't been on X in a long time, but anytime I get ready, you know that. Anytime something
Yeah.
comes up crucial, I get dropped. I don't care what the venue is, or whose phone I'm using to call, or whose system I'm
Well, you
using.
was dropping some good stuff right there because that's something nobody's brought up. Nobody can explain. You've got half of America that's pissed because they put out this letter thinking it's closed. They can't go back on it. And you're saying that that's totally legal.
Yeah, I mean, the classic example, although it got reversed on appeal for a number of reasons, is Dr. Cosby's situation. The district attorney said in a formal letter to the courts, we have investigated this. We find no probable cause to make an arrest or to consider that a crime occurred. So we are not going to prosecute. The civil judge saw that and said, well, now you're immune, so you're compelled to give an answer to these depositions where he admitted the acts, but he said, I didn't do this with intent. They asked for the drugs. I didn't sneak it on them. So the new prosecutor said, I'm not bound by that, but the appellate courts in Pennsylvania wound up saying, yes, you are. It's the office, not the individual, that grants the distinction. So we have this all the time where we have a prosecutorial or police entity that misleads the public. It's permitted under American law.
That is diabolical, Judge. That is great. So they said, okay, case is closed. So everybody thinks, all the bad people think, all right, nothing here, and then they can investigate them or spy on them if need be too. I guess that is
Yes,
awesome. I love it.
indeed. That is the case.
We have
That's breaking news, buddy. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
health, wealth, abundance. Hi,
Hello. How you doing, Miss Dana? Thanks for the mic.
I'm good. How are
Uh,
you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. See you back. And welcome back, Judge. I know you never met me. I never know, but I always used to come in Miss Dana space to hear you. You know, so it's a wonderful thing to know that they let some realism back on this app. I appreciate you, sir, and all that you do and
It
all that
was
you bring.
thanks to all of you that got me back on. A lot of you were sending some inquiries to X, and I think they got through.
Well, I'm thankful for that. And I just had one question for you. It's about, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Clintons supposed to go sit down and and be questioned. I just want to know how you felt about that with them having to go and sit down and be questioned. Hillary and Hillary Clinton. Like, how you feel about that? Like, what do you think?
Well, the body that wanted to hear from them has its remedies, so I'm waiting to see if they evoke them. In other words, the way the system works and the way it's designed to work is it's not designed to work instantaneously because humans are humans and everybody has to contemplate what they are about and figure out what's going on. So it takes time. Um, in my experience over the last half century or so, when a piece is put together too quickly, it's got a lot of holes in it, and defensively, it can knock out of the box.
You sound choppy.
I was gonna say I couldn't hear him. I didn't want to cut him off. I couldn't hear him.
You
Yeah,
can't
They
hear me?
attacked when the
you
Let
you
me
sound a little.
again. Let me wait. Let me hold the phone differently. What I was saying was, is a case that's put together too quickly has a lot of holes in it, and a good defense lawyer can destroy it.
Your phone is making you sound like a robot. You don't have your Apple phone hooked up, do you? I don't know if that's an interference with your cell phone, your Apple Watch. Judge, hello. Oh wow.
yeah, they attack the truth. They do that.
You know that
They, he's,
when we're doing YouTube, he
Has he updated his app recently? Because he hadn't been on a long
that's
time, you
another
know?
year. Maybe he needs to update the app as well. But when we're on YouTube, he could be talking. We're deep in a conversation, and then it knocks him off. And it's some if somebody calls him, it's going to automatically knock him off. But then sometimes no one isn't calling him, and he gets knocked off. So I don't know. I gotta
well, he was getting cut out when he was trying to answer that truth.
right,
I was asking
yeah,
him
and
how.
right, and sometimes it's like I don't want to think that, but it's too much of a coincidence. Like it's every time, every single time. Let's see.
That's why
All right,
I asked.
I'm
I
sending you
just really
the
wanted to know his
invite.
point of view.
I'm sending you the invite link. I just sent you the invite link, Judge. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I moved to where there's a better signal, I guess. Maybe that's it. But, you and I have been talking about this. It's a strange thing how when
I don't know. He keeps going in and out. Because for a long time, I know the Wi-Fi, especially in his area, is a little iffy, but I don't know. This is it's just too much. I don't know.
Hey, Miss Dana, it's that truth. They want to keep the truth out of everybody's ears. That's what's going on.
And, right. Because you know what I also
See,
noticed? I noticed even talking about Bad Bunny on YouTube, instead of I would get a yellow button, meaning that is limited ads, like they don't fully monetize it till maybe later. And the same with Jasmine Crockett. So left liberals, the DNC, the Democrats, they really control a lot of media, social media, and even mainstream, and they try to protect these public figureheads because a majority of people don't like them. So I don't know. I see you, Jeff. I don't the judge keeps going in and out. This is his first day back on X.
You, he sounded perfect though when he was coming in on that second go around, and he just disappeared. But thanks for letting me up, Dana. It's a pleasure being up here with Judge Brown. He's a classic man and a fair judge. And to think after all these decades of being where health and myself have been at, and in situations to be up here talking with Judge Brown is an honor. I just thank you for letting me up.
Yeah.
and then I asked them after they told me they would consider no more appeals to list any of them, which they couldn't because I had none. And then it was kind of funny. I said, maybe this is just an AI retaliation because I bested Grok on something one time or a couple of times. And then I said, under the circumstances and the politics in Shelby County, Tennessee, I might have to have a personal conversation with Mr. Musk about why I got knocked off of his X for supporting his policies. So after that, they kind of reinstated me. But anyway, that was in conjunction, I'm sure, with all of the tremendous support that I have gotten from the people that listen. So thank you very much. Um,
Health, where did y'all leave off at?
well, I was going to ask you, did you want me to re-ask the question, Judge? I was
Please
asking,
re-ask it because I couldn't hear it.
Well, I was asking about Hillary and Hillary. The meeting they got coming up. I want to know how you felt about it and what do you think was going to come out of
Well,
it.
what I think my answer was going into was it's going to be up to the institution that's trying to get their statements, and they do have remedies. So let's see if they apply them. I think this is a situation where people are walking on thin ice because some of the people that act like they really, really want to know what's going on don't really, really want to know what's going on, because if they got what they claim they want, it would be personally embarrassing, or somebody that they are in alliance with would be very badly embarrassed. If you
Thank you,
get what
sir.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, sir. I get it. I thank you so much for that answer, man. Appreciate you
Like,
so
yeah,
much.
man, the
Always
dude need to
respect.
tell on what he know, man. He need to lay it on out. Do you really want this guy to talk about what he knows since you were there when it went down? You know your name will come up if that happens, or you know your homeboy is gonna come up and he won't like it. Yeah. Well, yeah, but they ain't gonna do nothing anyway. I might as well just keep saying that I want them to hear. Yeah, okay. Be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. If that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Judge. I appreciate your time. Definitely like, your point of view. Thank you.
All righty.
Jeff.
Yes, ma'am. Judge Brown, appreciate you being up here, sir.
Thank you,
Really
sir.
appreciate your service and your honesty as a judge. And I just wanted to ask you about this Jeffrey Epstein Pam Bondi situation. I've noticed she's made zero arrests since President Trump has been elected. And I'm just wondering if the security threat of making these arrests is going to be so great that it's going to hurt not just our country, but all the countries around the world. And the length of the time the evidence has been in lockup and have been in several hands where it could have been altered as well. What concerns me is that they bring these cases like P. Diddy and the case evidence is so weak that it just falls right off. Just what is your take on them covering up for Jeffrey Epstein? Because I considered him high ranking intelligence is kind of quite obvious. Just your take on that and the security issue, please.
Oh, what happened? All right. He dropped out.
Whoops.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, honestly, I don't think it's his Wi-Fi at this point. I really don't, cause I always get on him about his Wi-Fi, but I don't think it's the Wi-Fi. I
I
think
think
it's
you're being attacked.
yeah.
And seeing this space just made my day, Dana.
Hey, Adam,
How you doing?
how you
Welcome
doing?
back, JoJo Brown.
Good.
Sup,
Man,
Adam?
Yeah, we just I'm gonna wait for him to send a request. Well, let me see if I could send him invite to co-host. I'm just gonna send him a straight invite to co-host. I don't know. I told him to get Starlink though, cause I'm gonna get Starlink for my house. I told him to look into getting Starlink. Judge, I just sent you a co-host.
Me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I could hear you guys the whole time. You just couldn't hear me.
Because you dropped to listener.
I didn't drop the listener. My phone is sitting on the table, and
It dropped you to listener.
yeah, and I didn't touch anything.
All right, so you and Jeff was having a conversation. Adam just came up, so
Well, what app? I heard that whole thing. My answer to that one is this one. Pam Bondi hasn't dropped any ball. Like I said, justice, the wheels of justice grind slowly, and it takes a while to put a case together. Now, just imagine reading a page after page after page of transcript. You're one guy, and maybe you've got 8, 9, 10,000 pages to read. A lot of people referenced, a lot of details in there. You have to put it into you have to diagram it out, and then you have to go call these people, try to set up an appointment, go out, pay them a visit, get statements from them, write them up, compare them to other statements so you can build cases on folk. Now, Bondi will have to get indictments, so they need probable cause to get a grand jury to return a true bill of indictment somewhere. And grand juries vary, and when it's a federal case, the feds can kind of forum shop to get the most favorable forum to go after somebody who's had a national impact. You're quite right about what happened with Diddy. That case was garbage, and it illustrates the problem. The Diddy case, from my analysis, and I said this months ago, was especially when they had Homeland Security do the search warrant on the California and Florida residences rather than the FBI, that was created to set the stage to come up with what was known as the Mann Act, MANN, which is what they prosecuted him on, and they got him convicted. That brings in a specter of the Patriot Act, Homeland Security Act, where somebody can be held incommunicado when they're charged with that, so they can't blab to the press, supposedly for security reasons. But I said when this came out a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that what they were doing is protecting somebody that was probably running for office, perhaps a national office, because Diddy had 15 years worth of tape, and somebody and a lot of politicians and important VIP types like to get their freak on, and there's evidence of what they're doing. And somebody didn't want somebody talking about it. So that case did not result in convictions for all of these offenses. The jury said, we're finding him guilty of Mann Act. The Mann Act was created to get a guy named Jack Johnson, a heavyweight boxing champion, a black man who had a white wife before World War I, more than 110, 15 years ago, and they convicted him. He only got 1 year, and he was the target for the whole act. It was about transporting females across state lines or interstate line or international lines for, quote, illicit purposes, which they modified about 70 years ago or 60 years ago into purposes of prostitution, in other words, sex for hire. So it is what it is, and it was a real hastily thrown together case. There were a lot of corners cut and a lot of damage was done to American justice, but they achieved their effect. Somebody didn't get told on, whoever that might have been. And what they're doing right now with the Epstein thing is throwing out something to distract attention for the general incompetence that the blue side is shown on being able to administer governance on a municipal or local level. That being the case, we might have some interesting things that come out of this ultimately, but it takes time. Now, it was my business for 50 years, or 35 of the 50 years, to get into prosecution, defense, and then adjudication of criminal matters. And if you got a smart defense lawyer, he can always destroy a hastily put together case, and it's just something to delay things or to achieve a purpose other than acquiring a conviction and justice. And we don't want that because that's very, very bad for the American system. That being said, We shall see. I suspect that there might be indictments. There are 3 more years of this administration and perhaps 8 after that from Vance, who has a good probability or possibility of advancing from vice president to president. So we have a long time to go. And the main problem they have right now is the primary defendant in this case has had the charges against him abate by death or any further charges. He's dead. So in criminal law, that usually ends the matter unless there are other suspects, and those take time to develop since principal witnesses and leads going through a principal, well, the defendant in this case are, well, he's dead. Hmm. Anyway, it's complicated.
Who's next? Oh, Adam. Adam did no quarter.
I just want to welcome back JoJo Brown. Miss you, man.
Thank you.
Miss hearing your voice. It was definitely. I definitely put out my efforts as far as I could to try to get people to get your account on band, and I'm very happy to see you back. You are a national treasure, sir,
Why,
and
thank you, young man. I appreciate that.
I do appreciate having you back. And and through these times, as people go through this stuff, you're gonna help give people clarity on the legality of things and the process. So I definitely appreciate you, and I'll yield. Thank you.
If I might make a further remark on the previous question, people on the other side, the blue side, are counting on the public's conditioned frustration on not getting immediate gratification to their curiosity. And they want to destroy the public's receptivity to what may develop by trying to get people turned off to it before it's had a chance to mature. Just keep that in mind. It's a propaganda technique,
Okay.
and it's not nice.
Go ahead, no quarter.
Yeah, hey Dana and Judge, it's good to see you guys. Good to hear you. Adam, what's up, buddy? So, it is complicated, like you were saying, Judge. And I think about you said something about the gratification of indictments and stuff like that, and how that would satisfy a lot of people in a sense that justice is being served. But I mean, there are a lot of people that are going to be compromised, and I think you touched on that as well. And the question for me becomes, because I'm all about like what's going to move us forward, and I think Trump is too. Is we're spending time with, so much time on what's happening in the past. It's really complicated in this case to walk and chew gum, to look in the past and do all that work and energy and spend all that money in the past to try to move this country forward at the same time is kind of tricky. So which direction do you think is the most prosperous, the most uh, beneficial for the United States of America at this point?
Okay, it's a matter of relearning a truth. See, we have a microwave mentality. Pop it in the microwave and hit 33 seconds, and it's supposed to be done, whereas ordinarily it would take a while. And you have to uncondition somebody. That's what's been going on for the last 55 years is the public has been conditioned to not only accept but expect certain things that are not good, and they have to be weaned of that. Donald Trump is good for that. When I was in elementary school, when I was in junior high school, President Eisenhower was in office, and is a thing that they used to do in the LA California city school system was in fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth grade, we'd have to listen or look at newsreels of the president. And Trump and Eisenhower come across much the same way. Is contrasted to a lot of what you have been hearing since. LBJ was not a good public speaker. Tricky Dick Nixon destroyed the American citizens' confidence in his government, and it kind of went downhill from there. So we've got somebody that is a real life, fearless leader type who is a boss and not a figurehead. And we don't really know how to handle that because we have been conditioned to not expect that and to expect something else. Sometimes what is needed is not somebody who's continuously apologizing for offending somebody's feelings. We need somebody who will stamp on their bare toes and really hurt them. Sometimes what we need is somebody to call other people out and really badmouth them because it's not pleasant. But a lot of folk want everything, they've been conditioned to expect everything to be nice. I can remember when we used to talk about Harry Truman. Give them hell, Harry. They would edit out what we got to hear in elementary school because Harry Truman would say stuff like, tell the son of a bitch I'm coming by and kicking his ass. And that's exactly what the President of the United States was saying. And it was carried on the newsreels that were in the movie houses. Tell the son of a bitch I'm coming by and kicking his ass. And in that question, a critic criticized his daughter's performance in a play, and he literally had the Secret Service drop him off at the man's office building and tried to kick in his door. That was when he was president of the United States. But you see, that is supposed to have never happened. Another thing about Trump, there's only one other president in American history that has been villainized more than Donald Trump. You know who the man is? His name is Abraham Lincoln. So I guess he's in good company. I'll pass the mic.
Well, Nancy just came up. I guess I'll go to Nancy, then I'll swing back to you, Jeff.
Hi, Judge. So good to have you back. We
Thank
have
you,
missed you.
ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, here's my issue. I can remember the first or second day when Trump was in office, and I was very disappointed. I tried not to pay attention to it. I tried, like, okay, but then it didn't happen. When I saw Sam Altman in his office and Larry Ellison, they don't have a good track record. And I went, okay, just don't think about it. Just don't think about it. So I didn't. And then I watched him, Mr. I don't believe in regime changes, proceed to do that in Venezuela and say it was all about drugs. And I think he'd already just pardoned some big drug runner, at least one, if not two. And it wasn't about drugs because you could check in the UN or also our drug enforcement agency and see that they did not traffic fentanyl, didn't come from there. And they were actually way down on the list of drug trafficking anything. And then we're proceeding to look like we're going to try to do regime change in Iran. This is from Mr. I don't believe in regime changes. And then we appear to be letting Palantir run wild. And when I hear people, oh, it's okay if they put in a surveillance system because it'll help the children. I mean, I'm just like, yeah, it's not after the children, it's after you. And seem to be furthering getting digital IDs for each of us. And if we do have a CBDC and the sovereign fund is
You know, we
going,
banned CBDC, right, under Trump?
can I finish, Adam?
But definitely.
If we get a digital ID and a CBDC, and it seems like the sovereign coin is set up to do that, we are done. We are red China. So that's my concerns in a nutshell, Judge.
Okay, let's start with that last one first. Well, the first one first. It's called power vacuums. You do not want to have a vacuum. And if you study history, ancient and modern, you will find there are a lot of instances where one country has beat the devil out of another one, but props up the previous administration so there's no power vacuum because when there are vacuums, they get filled. Now, when you hear what you hear, that means arrangements have been made so there will be an ordered and structured reconfiguration of the governance in the area in question so there's no power vacuum. Now, when it comes to Venezuela, Venezuela in the United States has history of nastiness every now and then. In the late 1880s, Congress decided that it was going to revitalize the now decrepit United States Navy because Venezuela had badly embarrassed them. There was some stuff going on down there in the Venezuelan Navy that was larger than the U.S. Navy at the time and had modern steam warships that we didn't have. They pulled over on the high seas some American ships, and in one notorious incident, they put the captain on a wall and executed him along with some of his crew. And the U.S. cried out for revenge, and they contracted for the first two modern battleships to be built. Number two of which we know is the Maine that blew up in Havana Harbor and was the provocation for the Spanish American War, though it turned out it was a tragic accident. It wasn't anybody's sabotage. Now, those things go on. So that's just the way stuff goes. Now, the second question, say that to me again, if you could.
It has to do with, and one of the reasons I voted for Trump was I knew that our dollar was in big trouble because we're $38 trillion in debt and growing, and our interest on that loan is over $1 trillion a year. I mean, that's just like crazy, right? I knew we were in trouble, and I thought, well, maybe he can pull something out of his ear or wherever. Um, but so when I saw him, uh, well, I saw him buddying up with Palantir and big tech, the same big tech that silenced, him and us during the previous administration. And they're up to no good. If you listen to the World Economic Forum proceedings or read the UN's Agenda 2030, which I suggest everybody do it because we're not out of that at all. I'm concerned about a digital ID, and I think we're very close to it because we already have everything in place to where all you have to do is turn the switch. And a CBDC, which the sovereign coin can be pretty easily, and then we're done where they can track everything you buy, everything you do, and decide, well, we don't like your social media posts, so you can't travel here, and we have carbon credits that's already in legislation. Carbon pipelines are laid everywhere. I think we're getting ready to be just utterly controlled. And once we have a digital ID and a CBDC, we're done. We're totally controlled. We're totally surveilled, and people seem to think that's okay nowadays. And I'm just shocked because I'm older than probably most of them. I'm shocked, and I think we're very close to it. I think people are going to sleep because they're Republicans, and if a Democrat was doing all this stuff with the surveillance state, people would be outraged. But since it's a Republican, they're letting it happen. So that in a nutshell is what I said, Judge.
Okay, I thought that's what I thought you said. Now, addressing that point, you need real ID to get drunk, or in other words, to buy whiskey at a liquor store or to buy wine at a restaurant. You need ID to get in and see a PG movie or an R-rated movie. You need ID to get in a nightclub. You get ID, you have to put out now real ID, thanks to New York and California giving them away to known illegals. You need that real ID with a star in it to get on an airplane, certain trains, or a boat. Let's see, you need, excuse me, sir. Driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. You need that. Okay. You need the ID for all sorts of things nowadays. You go to cash your paycheck, you need ID. You want to make a deposit or withdrawal from your bank, you need ID. So you need ID for all of these mundane things, but not for the most important thing you can do as a citizen, which is vote. Doesn't make sense to me. The other thing is perhaps that is because California and New York, as we've been hearing lately, are likely to lose a total of 6 congressmen by 2030. That's 4 more years from now, thanks to their loss of population. But if you bring in illegals and you can't ask them for ID to prove who they are, yeah, they can vote, but most importantly, they get counted in the census, which, as Article 1 of the Constitution says, has as a primary purpose the apportionment of representation in the House of Representatives. So that would maintain the status quo. So liberal, far left, California, New York, etc., would not lose the influence that they have. That, by the way, is behind the movement to make D.C. a state. A small, medium sized town does not need to be considered a state. That's a travesty. If the people there are desirous of being able to vote for congressmen and senators who can vote in their respective institutions, then what they need to do is reseed the current District of Columbia back to Maryland, keep the Capitol Mall as the very much uh, reduced district, and then all of those people can vote in Maryland for congressmen who can vote in the House and senators, 2 senators who can vote in the Senate. That solves the problem because if you give them 2 representatives and 2 U.S. senators, considering how the Senate works, that would give them an opportunity to maintain their far left control or influence in national affairs. That's a game they're running. And meanwhile, if 911 was bad when we lost 3,000 citizens thanks to some terroristic activity, the toll is going to be many times worse than that because we've had Al Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, Iran, North Korea, just flow across our borders for 4 years with backpacks that weren't checked, that contain military grade explosives and detonation devices that are already planted, I'm sure, so the terrorists don't have to play suicide bomber and strap on an explosive vest or play kamikaze and fly the airplanes into the twin towers of the Pentagon. They have already planted the explosives, and on instructions, they'll just flip the switch and watch the fireworks from a few miles away. Now, that's what we have out there right now. These people don't have B 52s, Bones, that's B 1 bomber, B 2 bombers, X 15, F 15s, FA 18s. They don't have F 35s and F 22s. But they have had the opportunity to freely walk across the border with all of the explosives they need and get free transportation courtesy of the Biden administration anywhere they wanted to go in the United States. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of people with incurable diseases that did not get checked from entry into the country. There are convicted murderers, rapists, gangsters, drug cartels, all sorts of things that are going wrong. In other places in the world that have now been imported or, allowed to come into the United States. So we have these people attacking ICE. But I understand your concern about the loss of privacy, but uh, some of us on here have contributed mightily to that. How many people support Facebook? Facebook has algorithms that can identify almost 95% of the American adult public. You don't even have to have a Facebook account. But if you've been in the background at a nightclub while somebody is taking a picture, look at me, I'm out for the night, and you're in the background, the algorithms learn you, so you get identified. About 5 years ago, they had a New Year's celebration in Times Square, and there have been some threats of likely terrorist activity. So the moderator was asking a captain in NYPD, wasn't he worried about the so called enhanced terroristic threat? He said, not really. We are concerned, but we're on top of it. Well, what about all of these people? And he said, well, we've already identified almost 90% of them thanks to Facebook's recognition algorithms. So we invite that. Our teenage children drive these things when they want their communications instantly heard and shared. If you have an iPhone, for example, every time you get an upgrade, it gets stuck on 15-year-old stupid, meaning stupid is terms of a 15-year-old, and it takes a few weeks for it to learn your adulthood back again. And the spell check and everything can identify some obscure rap artist, but not somebody of significance on the world scene. So we have this driving engine where you immediately take a picture and it's sent up. By the way, if anybody's got an iPhone and you got the latest upgrade, watch out for your girlfriend or boyfriend, husband or wife going in on you and getting all kinds of stuff they might get angry with you about, because it'll take stray pictures where you just happen to be there and enlarge segments of it and put it up events. You were there, and somebody looks at it like, who is this woman or who is this guy? I don't know hardly. Well, why do you have them featured in your photo albums? Well, I didn't. Well, you didn't, but now the programming does. So we gave up a lot of this privacy and individual security because we want to be heard, we want to be known, we want to be seen, and we get in a picture with an ugly floppy hat on, but we want everybody to know it. So we are the driving engines behind that. And there's an interesting thing, I've said it over and over again, with American governance. You get the representation in the government you deserve. If the government is crap, it's because you're crap by electing it. Now, granted, a lot of people steal the election, which is what we're finding out has been going on down in Atlanta, at least. They found the documents. The people don't want the votes counted again or the ballots revealed to the feds because it might show that they were lying. And President Trump was telling the truth when he's talking about the elections were stolen. But anyway, that's another story. But we have to be careful what we just jump into because we've been conditioned to expect it. It's like you walk into a restaurant, and if you order a soft drink, you expect to get free refills. It's shocking if you run into some place that wants you to pay for each refill of a Coca-Cola, for example. Why? Because we've been led to expect one thing. But that isn't the law, that's just our expectations. So there are a lot of things that we expect that are not good for us. A lot of things that are not the American way, are not the ways of this republic, but they've just been incrementally imposed on us a little at a time over a half century. From my perspective, when I was late 20s, wow, that was fun times, but it wasn't that long ago. But it's been more than a half century for real. So that's a long time for something to be fed to someone so that they pick it up and it becomes a reality. Now I'll pass the mic.
Can I ask something though? I mean, we didn't talk about the digital currency and the tie between that and a digital ID. Now, because what I maintain is that um, they create the problem and then they come in with the solution. Of course, when I was a little kid, the first time I voted, I had to show my driver's license. There's no issue with that. But then again, they create the problem. Say, oh well, no, a lot of those were given to illegal aliens. So now you have to have this, and now
Yeah,
you have to have that. So they create a
incremental.
problem, is what I maintain, and we still haven't addressed the CBDC and the tie to a digital ID.
I agree with you. That's what I was saying. Incremental steps until it becomes normal. What used to be unusual.
Anyway, that's my concern
Yeah,
because I see us going
I
that
I
way.
see your point. But one thing you need to understand: digital stuff is going to have to be backed up by paper stuff. A lot of courthouses have digitalized all their records and they find out that they aren't adequate because somebody that was copying them into a computer didn't do a job. So there's a case where does somebody have a claim to this property? And 43 years ago, there was a case that shows that the person did not. But somebody didn't copy that into the records and threw away the paper files on it, and now you got a mess. Okay, you have a situation where we are used to these phones, but our local yokels have been ripping everything off, cheapening stuff up so our utility companies don't work well. And you can't always count on having power 100% of the time. So, what happens if you are digitally dependent and the power goes down? How do you transact business without some hard currency that's in your hand? See, these things are self limiting, and it's sort of like how many times, look what my phone is doing tonight. It's not being 100% reliable, but yet people want to say you have to depend on these things exclusively. Well, what's the backup? See, what happens if the system breaks down? You don't have any records, but if you have something this physical, hard copy, it can exist for decades, for hundreds or thousands of years.
Uh,
So
uh,
some of this stuff will be self limiting, and a lot of it is just pure drama, theater to get people hyped up.
so we
There are
have.
possibilities, but you know.
I want to go to Silent, then swing back to Jeff, Adam, and then David. Health, I think you had your hand up earlier. I don't know if you have anything to say, but go ahead, Silent, and then we go to Jeff and Adam and David.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, man.
I'm
Thank you,
I'm
man.
I'm I'm at work. I'm coming. I'm at work. I'll
Oh,
come
okay,
back.
no problem.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Uh,
Good to see you, Judge Joe.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I spent all day, well, last, I don't know, 2, 3 hours on a local space with a local politician. And you're absolutely right what you say. 100%, bro, about when you're dealing with tangible assets, right? And then when you look at the when you look at the, of course, there's things you have to diversify a little bit, right? But the core of what you're saying is about we the people, man. And we all need to make sure that whoever is running our local communities, okay, has their shit together and has our best interest in mind. Not, I'm gonna do.
well,
I'm
hey,
gonna. Yeah, I'll tell you
hey,
this,
let's go.
Judge.
Can I take this?
Oh, hell's
Oh,
Hot mic health.
hell's got his mic
let
open.
me mute him. He
Oh, my
probably
bad.
didn't realize he was
No,
off the
he
mic.
does. He does. The other day he said I wasn't hungry. He had I wasn't hungry. His wife was making dinner or something. But yeah, but no, you're absolutely right, Judge Joe. And I got a question for you about this, right? So, what do you think about how many people need to pay real close attention to their local fucking judges? Because that's where the nut hits the fan, bro.
Well,
What do you think?
I think you need to be paying very close attention to your local judges if you can elect them, or who you are electing if they are appointed. There is a bad problem with judges, we have judges interspersed in the system from the lowest level all the way to the high that aren't really qualified to hold their positions because they lack the experience. We have a lot of members of the bar who are practicing law who are effectively rookies, even though they've been out there and they have very slick ads that you respond to. A doctor, to be a doctor, has to go through a process of becoming an intern and then a resident. And that puts him in a position where he is exposed to various and sundry and very many medical situations that he has to get used to and have hands on experience. But we have people that charge huge fees for absolutely ridiculously weak performances. I listen to some of what I've heard and I hear what is televised, and I'm saying, God, that was pathetic. What in the world? And I listen to some judges spout nonsense. I'm aware of, I'll give you an example. There's somebody on a federal court of appeals who put her husband through law school, decided she was going to go through law school. She got out, she got sworn in. 4 days after she was sworn in as a member of the bar, she was appointed as a state trial judge handling everything theoretically from complex civil cases all the way up to first degree murders. That was the level she was on. And she stepped foot in the courtroom for the first time as a judge, not as a lawyer. Within 2 years of law school, she was a federal judge. And now that person sits on a circuit court of appeals and they've never had a client, never had a case, never had a trial, never had a jury trial, never had an appeal. I'm aware of some judges that now sit on the bench who have had 5 trials as a lawyer, 4 trials as a lawyer, no trials as a lawyer dealing with the subject that they're presiding over. I have seen people brag about their experiences as, say, public defender, and they were a rookie and had very little and very limited experience doing that. And they're sitting in high places. So I'm wondering what's happened to American law when what's going on is the people that you put in place to practice it and then to preside over it are essentially rank amateurs who would not qualify for the issuance of a medical license. Then you have the state of Washington that says it's not fair to certain groups that have always wanted to be lawyers to require them take a bar. So if you graduate from law school, and there are a bunch of ignoramuses that graduate from law school that can't pass a bar, and even if they do under current circumstances, don't have a convey a guarantee to the public that they know what they're doing. So you take that requirement away. That's extends downstream on the totem pole. Oregon, for example, says no homework. You don't have to learn to do math because you have a cell phone you can do it on. And it's unfair to certain people because this type of person can't get it. That's just so bigoted. But it seems to be the norm. So it's like somebody had a dream, so what we do is let them have their dreams. No, it's a service to the public. And you wouldn't feel comfortable walking into a doctor's office after you got referred there and then discover that the doctor's never had an internship or a residency. And only thing he's ever done is out of the books like a DA I was acquainted with. When I was on the bench and he was sworn in, he was 2.5 hours late for a swearing in ceremony, and he had to be retrieved by the sheriff's department. Do you know why? Although he was the new DA, he'd never been in the criminal courthouse in his career. We have a DA now, 30 some years later, and he's never practiced criminal law. He's been a law professor, and he is horrible at what he does. So We have all of these people that are in place that don't know what they're doing. And we have too many lawyers who charge fees that are entirely too high to the point of being obscene for what they're doing. And we're stuck being cut off from our court system because it's gotten too expensive and for a number of reasons too filled with red tape that even the judges don't understand. So we've got a real live mess. And then to compound it, we've got somebody on the U.S. Supreme Court that can't even tell us what a woman is. And that person is a shill for that trans crowd. So, we've gotten to the point where it's too politicized and too little into learned and experienced in the world, in law, and wise in the ways of the world. And that's the same with a lot of other professions too.
Um, so what I say, Jeff, Adam, and who was it? I see David. I'm
Frank
almost.
put his hand up as well earlier.
Yeah, I see.
Just
Okay,
Then
so
Immortal.
I said Jeff, I said Adam, and then who was after that? I thought it was someone else. Maybe it's David. No, Frank, then David, then Immortal. Because I think Immortal, you was the last person I brought up.
No,
That's correct.
I'm Frank. I was last.
You were last. Okay.
The war on drugs has been won by the CCP for all the drugs through the triads in the Tongs in Hong Kong and the cartel top distributors of those drugs. So now we've gone to war, an all-out war, in my opinion, against the drug dealers and the CCP for supplying the fentanyl. And that should be an automatic death penalty for that because it's killing 10,000 plus Americans a day. So in my opinion, I think that the Justice Department has caused harm to the drug war by being controlled by the Food and Drug Administration and the USDA and all the lawyers up top that control all the three branches of the government. And in my opinion, right now we're at an all-out war against these people. And I just want to know what your take on that is, please.
I would like you to consider this proposition. We've never been at war on the drugs. That was only political theater. What was really going on when I got into analyzing what I was seeing in the records that were coming through, the judges are supposed to approve of the disposition of all firearms seized in cases, is when you track back where the serious hardware was coming from, it was coming from an entity once known as Inter-Armco that was in Virginia. When you trace those shipments, they went to South America. Well, got into it a bit more. And what I wound up discerning was that in the effort to supposedly fund black ops against so called communist threats and then against terrorist threats, the drug trade became a good way to finance those operations. They couldn't say we are inviting the sale of drugs into the United States and condoning the horrid consequences. They couldn't take that as a public policy, but they could act like they were against it. And what winds up happening is you have Venezuela, where let's see, Cartel de Soleil, that means the cartel of the sun. The generals in Venezuela wear sun emblems on their epaulettes rather than stars like American general officers. And the military is caught up in the drug trade. Argentina, the same thing. Peru, the same thing. Colombia, the same thing. And when the kilos of dope come in, they are accompanied by crates of military grade weaponry that is not bought at gun shows or gun stores, but it's smuggled in with the drugs that aren't stopped by the lackadaisical, theatrical war on drugs. But they are also used to raise funds for so called black ops. Now, if you analyze where the weaponry is coming from, American grade or American military grade weaponry was exported to South America and it's coming back with the cocaine. In
Is that
Korea,
Fast and Furious, sir?
what say?
The Fast and Furious, sir?
Uh,
He's
yeah,
talking about Eric
that's
Holder.
exactly it. But there was another more insidious motive behind Fast and Furious. If I forget, ask me about it. It's got to do with ratified treaties being part of the supreme law of the land under Article 6. But back to Korea. South Korea was recipient of a lot of American military small arms hardware, but they've got their own indigenous industry now called Daewoo, Daewoo. So they are shipping back with the opiates that are coming in to raise money, supposedly to deal with offsetting North Korea's enormous defense budget, and they are selling our weapons back to our public on a black market basis as they ship in the opiates. You get to Israel, and Israel has seized enormous stocks of Block Kalashnikov design weapons. That's the AK series during the Arab Israeli wars over the last 70 years. And they've been shipping them to the United States with opiates so Israel can maintain its defense posture. We have Afghanistan and Iraq, where we're getting huge quantities of opiates coming from. And we're also getting more Kalashnikov weaponry that's coming in with the kilos. So we've got a drug trade and an arms trade that is black market that is also being used to fund special ops, black operations, supposedly against terrorists and previously against communism. So we have a half-hearted thing where we give lip service to this, but nobody does anything about it. You take the Mississippi River thing, and they have barges loaded up in the Mediterranean area overseas, and that includes North Africa, where the drug trade influence is rife, and you have coming in through the Suez Canal from Asia, where the drug trade is heavy. You have coming in from the Persian Gulf, where it is obviously right there dealing with Afghanistan and Iraq. And these barges are put on ocean going barge transports. They get shipped across the Atlantic. You get to the port of New Orleans, they drop the rear hatches out. They float the barges out, but they don't go through customs. They come up the Mississippi River to Memphis, where they're unloaded on on what's known as President's Island, the world's largest barge loading and unloading facility. But it takes about 30 some days to get from New Orleans to Memphis on the Mississippi coming upstream. And all the while, these barges have not been run through customs. Nobody's checking them. And two, three, four, five times a week, little skiffs go out to bring commissary and mail and come back with other letters, and nobody's checking them. And it's an ideal opportunity to run drugs. Some people I know that work for the CIA, not CIA, DEA, now retired, tell me, yeah, they become suspicious of that, but nobody's saying, sick 'em, go look at it. So we've got a wide open drug trade source of the illicit firearms that we get, where we really get worried about where so-called full auto weapons are brought into the country, the serious hardware, not just some semi-automatic look-alike. But see, nobody's paying attention to these things, but everybody talks a good game about them. So just take cocaine and crack. It doesn't make economic sense. It's like saying a 55-gallon drum of 91 or 93 octane gas would be expected to be cheaper than a 55-gallon drum of crude oil. The truth of the matter is the amount of coke that is required to make a small quantity of crack is enormously more expensive than the refined product, the crack. And that doesn't make any economic dog sense. So what is going on? Is there a subsidy there? And then you get into some stuff where even the narcs, and I've represented a few, they say it just doesn't make any sense to me, Joe. Like, what in the devil's going on? It doesn't make economic sense. You take all of this raw cocaine that is 8, 9, 10 times more expensive than a refined rock that it takes to produce, but it's cheaper. What's going on? So, who's subsidizing this and what are we getting out of it? And by the way, if you're old enough, you remember the scandals in the early 80s about $800, $695 toilet seats and stuff like that. The toilet seats weren't $695. That was just covering the apportionment of funds that were going to black ops. Same kind of thing, supposedly anti-communist activity. So we've got a bill of goods that gets run on us because we are so inept at handling realities as a general public that they feed us these fictions that are more acceptable. So we have to look behind the scenes to see what's really going on. And if somebody was on the national stage telling us that, everybody would be calling him a fool, a liar, or whatever. But it is what it is.
All right. So let me get to a couple of new speakers, then I'll swing back to you, Adam and Health. Immortal, and then who was after Immortal? David and then Frank. So go ahead, Immortal. Can you hear me? Immortal.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm moving around. Had to grab that out of my pocket. Okay. So, saying a lot. So, I just wanted to first ask for greetings to you and the most honorable Judge Joe Brown. Always good to hear you and speak to
Thanks,
you.
John.
Yes, sir. And so, very important what Judge Joe Brown said about the level of competence that he sees in public defenders, in judges, in the average everyday counsel that you might go and pay for. I mean, it's abysmal out here. It really is. And these people are often under pressure because they've been to school so long and they have these humongous bills. And, you know, I found out that those student loans is like many of them, depending on how they insured, many of them are just like child support. You can't even bankrupt them. Like, you got that. So they desperate to keep up a lifestyle, pay a huge bill. And so, yeah, they'll cut corners and they'll go around without the competence. I wanted to say that you, as a citizen, you know, in many cases, I don't recommend it to everyone. What I recommend is learn the law. And then when you go hire an attorney, you can talk in an educated way with your attorney to get the outcomes that you need. Because I had an attorney and somebody had accused me of something. They said I stole something, a record. I hadn't been anywhere around that record place. I was actually at work at the time. But anyway, I got my lawyer. I go to the thing, and he's looking at me. He said, "Do you see the witness in here anywhere? You see the clerk in here?" Because I said, "Let's go to trial," because I didn't do it. Uh, he said he was getting nervous because he didn't want to L on his record. He's getting nervous, and he really thinks I did it. I was like, "Dude, I wouldn't know him if I I wouldn't know them if even if they were standing in front of me because I wasn't there. I don't know who works there. I haven't been there, you know. And so I said, just make the motion and say, move to dismiss, no witness, let's keep it moving. And he did that, and we won. But he still was mad at me. But he didn't, you know, you have to help them and work with them these days. And as far as the adversarial position, too, if you can't afford a lawyer to walk them and teach them the law, then you might have to fight for yourself, but just make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's, you know, and learn what you're doing. There's certain places you can learn the law. And then the last thing about international gangsterism, uh, uh, the Honorable Judge Joe Brown was telling us about different avenues and facets and things in the way that they were moving around. And I noticed those same things happen in Afghanistan. Like he mentioned that the way that when we went into Afghanistan, it was producing 20% of the world's opium. By the time we left Afghanistan, it's producing 80% of the world's opium. That's for everything, even pharmaceuticals, anything, legal pharmaceuticals and illegal. And they got a big gift package in the form of abandoned hardware and equipment, just like Judge was talking about. So many things come to mind. I think I'm landed with that. You know, I don't want to ramble too long.
Let me say something about what you just brought up. The opiates coming out of Afghanistan. There is a very big reason why that is an operative fact on the world stage. One of the reasons the United States got free of King George's Great Britain is because they were almost broke because one of the last effective emperors of China demanded that gold bullion be used to pay for tea. So what happened is England and then later the new United States and then France and Germany and Japan got in on this act, Italy too. And you really ever heard of a clipper ship, these very fast sailing ships? It was what they were invented to do. They came up with a triangular trade. In northern India, which is now known as Afghanistan, the scheme was opium would be grown and or opium poppies were grown and opium was produced. They would take the opium on these fast ships to China, trade the opium for gold, and then turn around and hand the gold right back for tea. That was the triangular trade. If you read some of the things that were released with the thaw that has come about over the last 40, 50 years, you will find that Mao Zedong wrote that the United States was filthy because it had an agreement with Chiang Kai shek's China to re engage in the opium trade to acquire tea. So you've heard of the famous Chinese opium den. Well, the United States and Great Britain set that up so that they could addict millions of Chinese to opium, and the Chinese would pay for it, and they could use that to pay for the tea that everybody loves. I'll have tea, please, with lemon, Earl Grey, and all of that. That's filthy. It was hooked up with the drug trade, and there are hundreds of millions of Chinese that have been addicted over the last century and a half because of our craving for tea. Now, what happened is Afghanistan, which was considered northern India, is completely unstable because every time somebody would, through the course of events, become the primary drug lord in Afghanistan, the U.S. government, the English government, the French government, the Japanese government would prop up an alternative and take the guy down. So Afghanistan just became horribly chaotic. And when that was the case, you have a situation where ultimately you have to have a Taliban because it's so disunified that the only thing that will work is a loose coalition. But right now, even to placate the folk that might have gone to the other side with Al Qaeda, we have facilitated them once again restoring the trade in opium. So that is a filthy trade that we have with what some of all of the liberals and all of the namby-pamby poo folk look, I'll have tea. And every time you drink tea, you need to examine your soul because that represents a lot of people who were addicted by the action of the U.S. government, a government of Great Britain, France, et cetera, to get tea. So it's nothing pretty about it, but that's a reality that we don't like to deal with. Now, I passed the mic.
Who's next? Frank or David? I think it's Frank. Yeah.
No, David, Adam, and then Frank.
Okay. So then David, Adam, Frank. Got it.
How you doing, Mr. Judge Joe Brown?
Sir, how are you?
Good, good, good. Just gotta say I grew up watching you on the TV. I was a delinquent during high school era. My mom always said that she's gonna take my ass to your show if I didn't ever straighten up. But
Go ahead.
yeah. So I'm 31. So I watched you pretty much from 8 years old all the way up through like pretty much high school. But my biggest thing is that I've been seeing that I feel that's going on is literally a communism slash anarchist insurrection going on. Just by looking at because I mean I don't even watch Fox News. I'll get on. Well, of course, I have Facebook, but I get on Facebook. I'll look at the headlines on Fox News and be like, well, they're not covering anything really that's going on. So I fell more back on like the streamers, like the YouTube, like Nick Shirley's, Cam Higby, anybody that's out on the field actively streaming this stuff. And it just aggravates me. I guess it infuriates me basically that if I just feel like nobody's really taking this serious about what's going on. I mean, Minneapolis, they literally have roadblocks. They had roadblocks. I'm pretty sure they still do. They have roadblocks set up. Militia checkpoints is what I call them. And then the SEIU, just in that one location, has 80,000 people in their Signal group chat. And then they have 30,000 legal or trained legal observers. So basically, that's a whole militia unit right there, just in Minneapolis, in that one little group in the SEIU and the union. Now, granted, I don't like the unions, never have. But I mean, even here, I'm from Alabama, but even here now in the red states, like I've been trying to tell people this stuff's coming. And two high school, one of them was my high school that I went to, actually, I think had a walkout today, or they're planning it by the end of this week after school. So, like, when the final bell rings, they'll walk around the school and protest. That way, there's nothing nobody can really do about it because it's after school. But all these protests going on during school hours, that is just asinine. And I feel like the Conservative Party is not doing enough to counter react this stuff in my eyes. I'm only 31, but this is my generation and generation behind me coming up that's got to deal with it. But it's like, I don't know. I'm just frustrated and aggravated. I was just kind of seeing what your thoughts was and if you had any motivational words for anybody that's like around my age or, the younger generation possibly listening.
Okay, let me give you something. The Democratic Party is accusing the Conservative Party, the Republicans, of behaving in a fascist fashion, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you ever heard the term Nazi? Nazi? Obviously.
Yeah, I got called one today in BFE, Alabama at Walmart for wearing an
Okay,
American
but
flag
now, do you
hat.
know what? Yeah, but I'm going to give you the truth of the matter. Do you know what Nazi stands for?
The National Socialist Party or something like that.
Yeah, the National Socialist Workers Party. The Republicans are not the National Socialist Workers Party. What qualifies as the National Socialist Workers Party in the United States?
I'd
the
have to.
Democratic Party.
Yes, sir.
And fascism's interesting. What the Democrats are spouting right now sounds very suspiciously like what the Nazis were spouting in 1933 Germany. They accused the other side of attempting to be totalitarian. They accused the other side of suppressing free speech. They accused the other side of making false claims that elections were being stolen. But now we know the truth of the matter. We had to go through World War II and all sorts of horrors because the socialists were running this game. And I studied propaganda for a year at UCLA. It's been almost 58 years ago. From a mistress of propaganda who used to run propaganda for the intelligence agency of propaganda was to accuse the other side of doing what you're doing. If you want to say, let's say you wanted to behave in a fashion that suppressed free speech, you'd accuse the other side of being the one responsible. If you wanted to set up an authoritarian government, you'd accuse the other side of doing it. So while they're paying attention to the other side, you can do your thing and put in place a totalitarian government. So it's not you being a Nazi, it's the other characters being a Nazi. They're illustrating Nazi like characteristics by trying to destroy, discredit, or down anybody who's got a contrary opinion to theirs. They don't want it to be said. Tonight, I've been knocked off 3 or 4 times for no cause, which is supposedly a strong signal here. So, why? Dana and I have been noticing that anytime we discuss anything critical, it doesn't make any difference where I happen to be, get knocked off or it's interrupted, and other people are beginning to say the same thing about themselves. And when I get on, it's like, what happened with X here? I never got a complaint from anybody. So, exactly where are all of these numerous complaints and failure to comply with the policies? Because I hit the algorithms, and although Mr. Musk has done what he's done to clean up X, there are still people within the bureaucracy who don't like it, and they're trying to strike back while they're operating undercover. So, anytime you say something that is effective, they try to suppress what you do and knock you out of a free speech category. It's their way, and it's fascist, and it is exemplary of a socialist party. Now, that's what we have to worry about. Donald Trump's not in trouble. People love Donald Trump, but the news media is trying to get you to believe that they hate him. That didn't work. You saw he kicked Kamala's behind, and people woke up. So now we're getting this bill of goods. So, like the one on the thing, I understand the lady's point about digital ID. There is a danger inherent in it, but simply requiring somebody have a license or not a license, a government ID you can rely upon before you vote. What in the world? If you want to drive a car, you need a driver's license. If you want to go in and see a PG or an R movie, you need a license. You want to go in an adult nightclub, you need a license. You buy wine, you need a license. You buy whiskey, you need a license. You want to get on an airplane, you need a license. And you now have to provide the complications of a birth certificate and all kinds of things. It really makes it difficult for the people that the Democratic Party are talking about need to be protected, but they're the ones set it up by allowing illegals to vote in California and New York so they can maintain a population there that would keep those states from losing 6 congressmen in 4 years. Now, there are all kinds of things going on here that are not what they are being portrayed to be. And we need to be very vigilant about that.
Who was next? Who?
Adam.
Okay.
Mr. Adam.
Thank you, Frank, for keeping the order. So it's Adam, and then
That's okay.
Order
Adam,
in the court.
yeah, Adam, then Health, then P Ray, and then Daughter.
Yeah, Adam, Frank, and then I don't know. I think it was Silent.
No, but he spoke already. I'm gonna swing back to him.
Oh,
But okay, so you didn't go
oh,
yet, Frank. So Adam, Frank,
yeah,
then P
yeah.
Ray, then Daughter, and then I'll swing back to Silent. Okay.
Got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sounds good. Health, are you available right now?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
Okay,
heard
so you
that in
could
Health.
let him jump ahead of me then.
real
Okay.
That's fine.
quick. I gotta run again because I'm at work. I'm sorry, Miss Dana. You know, I'm at work. I was pulling
Yeah,
up to
no,
the.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
But yeah, real quick. I just wanted to ask the judge, how he felt about, because in my mind, I be thinking back. I go back to like these years. Like, how do you feel about when you think about 1871, 1913, the Federal Reserve? These how important I believe these terms was and should be again, and how this taxation, us paying taxes, and these Social Security numbers and this whole like working 40 hours, 80 hours and waiting to get paid, like this life that I don't never hear nobody complain about. And I'm just trying to figure out, is it just me? Am I crazy? Or like, how do you feel about all this type of things? Because me voting for Trump for the first time, this is what got me so like into him as a president and really riding for him, you know what I mean? Is because I feel like he the only president in my lifetime that ever even went at these people that's really got their foot on our necks. And that's the Federal Reserve, and leading back to the, wherever it's going, City of London, to the France Royal Family, Vatican. I don't know. But I just want to know how you feel about when I mentioned years like 1913, this Federal Reserve, and us American citizens been being caught up paying these taxes and really not having nothing. And, when we should just be sovereign to living off of the dividends of the wealth of our country. So I just want to know how you felt about that. And I lay back and listen, because I just pulled up. I got to unload this plane. But I just appreciate you, Judge. I really do. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
I just want to hear what you guys say. Thank you.
Okay. Taxation is interesting because if the taxes are wise, they actually become a citizen's investment in his country that winds up uh, producing a gain for him. The problem comes in is when those taxes are not wise taxes and they're used to advance something that does not contribute to the overall good. For the last 30, 40 years, we have had a growing trend where the taxes are being used to produce support for certain social programs. And those programs are not in the interest of the general public. The reason we have the Fed and all of that is 100+ years ago, economics was getting too complicated for our legislative bodies to handle. Too many people were not conversant with economics and money. So they set up a mechanism that would be appointed for a term, and those people were supposedly experts in the subject matter of economics, and they would set interest rates and set economic policy. Now, Congress is charged under Article 1 of the Constitution with raising money and tariffs and such like in general, and taxes. And under I think it is the 19th Amendment, we allow income tax to be levied, and taxation is something the ancient Egyptians did 5,000 years ago. It's what the Greeks did 3,500 years ago. The Phoenicians did it. Rome did it. Jesus is born in Bethlehem because Mary and Joseph are going there to be counted in a Roman census because they were Roman citizens. And the Senate in Rome and the House of Plebes wanted to get a handle on what the taxation should be. So it is ancient. You read the clay tablets in the ancient Urian Sumerian and Babylonian libraries that still exist, and a great number of them are devoted to taxes and taxation. The tax collectors has been a boogeyman since day one in all civil societies. Um, no taxation without representation. That was rallying cry in the American Revolution. So we've always dealt with taxes because it takes tax money to operate a governmental system. And anytime you've got three or more people in systems that are set up, somebody's got to pay for the expense. So you set up taxation schemes to take care of it. Now, when it works right, it works okay. When it doesn't, it's a real live mess. So we have to contemplate that the rules aren't so bad at their core. It's just who we've elected to apply those rules and what they've done to modify them may not be so good. So we need to be more astute with who we vote for.
Who's next?
Adam, then me, Frank.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Frank's great. Um, Yeah, I wanted to hit back on the CBDC thing that was mentioned way earlier. CBDC, as far as that goes, in 2025, I'm reading this. The U.S. implemented a ban on federal central bank digital currency (CBDC) through a presidential executive order and subsequent House legislation. The Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act passed in July 2025, prohibits the Federal Reserve from issuing a CBDC directly to individuals, citing risks to financial privacy. So I just want to read that bit off there as far as the CBDC. President Trump is somebody that you could see right now. He's always took this stance. You want to use a gas car, you could use a gas car. You want to buy a electric car, buy an electric car. It's your freedom of choice. He's very much like that. And same thing with digital, let's say blockchain. If you want to use blockchain, you can use blockchain. If you want to use, bullion, then go ahead and use bullion. I see a couple of states have legalized, gold and silver as legal tender. Florida has done it. A couple other states have done it. As far as the digital ID stuff, the Real ID Act, it's been around. What are we in 2025 right now? In 2011, Florida here, it was passed statewide. So every ID in Florida is a Real ID, which has your biometrics of your face and your fingerprints and stuff like that. They have special cameras that they developed back then to take your biometrics. Same technology that Judge Joe Brown mentioned on Facebook. You notice, remember back in the day, somebody would post your picture and then you'd be automatically tagged in it. How did it do that? It was using facial recognition software, FRS, and that's been, Judge Joe Brown is definitely correct in a lot of things. These terms of services, people sign this stuff over just to get that leisure of using that platform. You're giving away your anonymity, let's say. So like a lot of this, I was screaming about this stuff years ago. The surveillance state, the deep state, so on and so forth. But I hear people screaming about it now when it's being used to actually take out bad guys, people within government. Like the Patriot Act was used to spy on the American people, and I said it back then. This is going to be used against American citizens one day. Watch. And lo and behold, I was right. I hate to say it, but I was right, and it was turned on the American people under Joe Biden's administration. Now, you want to see a police state? That was a police state under Joe Biden. That what we're experiencing now is freedom of speech again. We actually have freedom of reach. Well, of course, we get mass reported, like Judge Joe Brown and, myself and others. We get mass reports by haters and, spooks, let's say. So, yeah, I think we're headed toward the right direction here as far as freedom and liberty goes. Uh, you know, I hear a lot of fear mongering. Well, the fear, where was the fear 10, 15 years ago when all this stuff was handed over so gently? Right now it's being used against the deep state, and I'm not going to get in its way. To clean out these criminals that are within our government, work with the cartels, work with foreign governments, sell to the highest bidder. I'm not gonna say anything. Let them use the Frankenstein that they created against them, and if that's what it takes to take them down. Now, once we're done with it, let's make sure we destroy it. Kind of like that. Like remember that scene from Batman where Lucius Fox was, Batman came to him and gave him, the echo thing where he could see everybody, what everybody's saying, and everywhere within Gotham he could hear everything that they're saying, right? uh, he gave him a code to destruct that because Lucius Fox didn't want that power, that capability. So I think once we're done cleaning out the rot and corruption within the government and throughout the country of invaders that have came in over the past 4 years, I believe that we will put that tool away, or harness it in a way that is not violating the constitutional rights and liberties of Americans. And I'll yield. Sorry for the rant, Judge Joe Brown, but I'm very
Keep going.
passionate about. I'm
Keep
very
going.
passionate about this because I'm somebody that was warning about the deep state, watching Enemy of the State with Will Smith and Gene Hackman, rest in peace. Hopefully, he was a good guy, not some Epstein pedo. But you know, uh, I have been warning about this stuff. I am that black pillar that used to be, but I'm more optimistic now because I see the works happening. The works. I'm able to talk freely now. I'm not, I was labeled a conspiracy theorist. Just because people conspire and you have a theory on it and it's very likely, it doesn't mean that you're a nutbag. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll just lead off with that. I see the proof of work is my personal statement. The proof of work speaks louder than anyone else's words, and that's why I support and have supported President Donald Trump, and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Hey, sounds good to me.
Okay, Dana. So finally, I'm up. How about that?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Judge, this is Frank. And you and I are the same age. We're both 78 years old.
All
And
right.
yeah. And it's a good day, right? We're above ground. So anyway,
Still breathing.
yeah, that's right, brother. So there's very few of us at this age in spaces. And I get asked this a lot. Is today worse than it was in the 60s with all the crap that we went through in the 60s during Vietnam? And from that point on, I say that from that point on was the demise of our country. From that point on, moral fiber went down the drain. Everything happened from that point on. And it has continued to spiral into today. And of course, the problems today are different than the problems were in our day. And a lot of young people get into a lot of spaces are so concerned. Like Adam said, Adam has a very good outlook on tomorrow and the future, but so many of them are really distraught and distressed over every situation. I've had younger people in their 30s show me a graft of